गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी 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 जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद श्री कृष्ण गोपामृति अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। संवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमः श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टकी। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृद्यन्तस्थोय भद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। हरे कृष्ण। So welcome everyone for this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, and we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 5, which is entitled The Cause of All Causes, and text 36. So you can repeat after me. Yasyeha vayavairlokan kalpayanti manishinaha कट्यादिभिर अर्धसप्ता सप्तोर्धम जघनादिभिः यस्य हावयवैर्लोकान् कल्पयन्ति मनीषिणः कट्यादिभिर अधः सप्त सप्तोर्ध्वं जगनादिभिः यस्येहावयवैर्लोकान् कल्पयन्ति मनीषिणः कट्यादिभिरधः सप्त सप्तोर्ध्वं जगनादिभिः लोकान् कल्पयन्ति मनीषिणः कट्यादिभिरधः सप्त सप्तोर्ध्वं जगनादिभिः यस्येहावयवैर्लोकान् कल्पयन्ति मनीषिणः सप्त सप्तोर्ध्वं जगनादिभिः। माताजी, यस्येहावयवैर्लोकान् कल्पयन्ति मनीषिणः सप्ताधिभिरधः सप्त सप्तोर्ध्वं जगनादिभिः. So we'll read word to word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Yasya, whose, iha, in the universe, avyavai, by the limbs of the body, lokan, all the planets, kalpayanti, imagine, manishinaha, great philosophers, kati adibhi, down from the waist, adha, downwards, sapta, seven systems, sapta urdhvam, and seven systems upwards, jaghana adibhi, front portion. Translation: great philosophers imagine that the complete planetary systems in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. The word kalpayanti or imagine is significant. The Virat universal form of the Absolute is an imagination of the speculative philosophers who are unable to adjust to the eternal two-handed form of Lord Sri Krishna. Although the universal form as imagined by the great philosophers is one of the features of the Lord, it is more or less imaginary. It is said that the seven upper planetary systems are situated above the waist of the universal form, whereas the lower planetary systems are situated below his waist. The idea impressed here is the Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of his body, and nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond his control. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarne Hare Krishna Yasya Vaivair Lokan Kalpayanti Manishina Katyadibhir Adha Sapta Saptordhvam Jaganadibhi. Great philosophers imagine that the complete planetary systems in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. So in this chapter, and rather I would say in this canto, there is a description of different aspects of this cosmic creation or manifestation. And for those of us who are reading, have read Srimad Bhagavatam, and we come to this second canto, so the speed of the reading and assimilation becomes a little slow, because this discussion seems to become too technical. Just like, few verses back we saw that how these different elements are getting created with the tanmatras, the different perceptions which are gained through the senses, and how everything is manifesting in conjunction with the elements, the earth, water, fire, air, space, the sound. And these things appear too technical or difficult to understand. And we know from the Bhagavad Gita that just like in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is something called as Chatushloki Bhagavatam, that 4 verses which were originally spoken by Lord Krishna or Vishnu to Brahmaji, just the 4 verses. And from there he expands his understanding, and then we see this whole Srimad Bhagavatam, which is sometimes said to be composed of 18,000 verses. So, similarly in the Bhagavad Gita also, the 10th chapter, the Acharyas say that there is Chatushloki, 4 shlokas, the most important essential shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. And if anyone understands them, then he's got the essence of the substance of the Bhagavad Gita. And the first verse of that series, which is 10th chapter and 8th verse, 8, 9, 10, 11. So Krishna is saying, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. That, everything in the material and the spiritual world is emanation from the Lord, and He is the source. Mattah sarvam pravartate. Everything manifests from me. Anyone who understands it will worship me with devotion. So, there are 2 things here. One is the understanding, and then the action. So we know that in this world that now we are living these present times, there is so much proliferation of data. 15 years back, we did not know that there is a field of professional education called as data science, the science of understanding and using data. We were just concerned about, pen drives, how much data they can have. But now we are unimaginable, even nomenclatures of, different ways of understanding what is the quantum of data. So the first computers, they could only process data in KB, right? What we started learning is bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, and then further terabytes. Now, we can't even, I don't know at least, what are the nomenclatures that are used for describing the quantum of data. But there is so much data. And just having data is not sufficient. How do we understand it in practical terms? So, this Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedic literature, if we see from this lens, there is so much of data. Even before, this understanding of what data means is coming, to our knowledge, or, even in terms of learning. But, one place in one of the purports, Prabhupada describes that, it's just so much of information if it is not put into practice or understood and see how it can be actionable. Then it becomes knowledge. That so there is this whole field of data science. A person, an engineer, or a professional just understands how to use this data in an intelligible way, to translate it into some form of what can be done about it, application. So that becomes knowledge. Then it becomes a knowledge base. And it becomes an intellectual property, which is more valuable than many times a tangible property in terms of land and other material things. But we understand that when that knowledge is actually lived, practiced, and it becomes internalized, it becomes assimilated, then it becomes wisdom or realization. So sometimes there are people who are such data crunchers, but what are we supposed to do with that? So in this verse, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. Yes, this knowledge is there, but what are we supposed to do? Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. That understanding this, what would the person do? Surrender unto me. Worship me with great devotion. So that is the purpose. If the purpose is not defined, there is no point in any endeavor, because it is just mechanically done something. So the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam, the purpose of this verse that we are now reading today about imagination, kalpayanti, what is that? And in the last line of this purport, Prabhupada says, the idea impressed herein is that the Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of His body, and nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond His control. So, this universe and how it is being described and how it is manifesting and is being maintained, the understanding is that everything is dependent on the divine, who Srimad Bhagavatam in very clear terms say is Krishna, manifest as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Shirodakshai Vishnu. Now in this section we are learning that. So for those who are in India, we think that we know so much. Vishnu, yes, yes. Vishnu's incarnation is Krishna. Here when we come to Srimad Bhagavatam and we understand, oh, there is no one Vishnu, there are three. And Krishna is the source of their manifestation. So, it may be confusing if we are stuck to our position, but it is humbling if we just accept that how little do we know. So, the purpose of this is ultimately come to the point of surrender, which is where our difficulty is. This is where our difficulty lies in this world, that we are not actually surrendered. And because we are not surrendered, that's why we are not peaceful. And what helps us to surrender and experience that peace? That is Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. In the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, last verse, Krishna says this, the formula for ultimate peace. If anyone wants to realize peace, one should understand these three things, that I am not the enjoyer, because I am not the controller or proprietor of anything, including my body. So what to speak of anything else? Sometimes people start claiming, even those who are connected with us, that the person is my property, whether it is husband, wife, children, and I can deal with them in any way they like. Even the body is not our property. So we can't deal with our body also in any way we like. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila, the chapter 4, Sanatana Goswami, he comes from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri, and on the way he gets some disease where he develops some sores in the body, and he is feeling so bad about it that now my body is useless, so what is the point? I'll just give up my body in a very auspicious way by coming under the cart of Jagannath during the Rath Yatra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and chastises him, how can you destroy someone else's property? So he's like, what are you saying? He says, this desire to commit suicide, is actually wrong. It's not proper, because you think that that this body belongs to you. No, it belongs to me. You have surrendered to me. So, Sanatana Goswami is disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he says, I have many purposes to perform through your body, which I cannot do and you can do and I want you to do. So how can you destroy this body? So, he chastises him and he says that if this would have been a truth that by committing suicide you get Krishna, then I would commit hundreds of times. Right? So sometimes, the world that we live in, the reality or, the fact of things like stress, depression, suicidal tendencies is real. And that was many years back also. 500 odd years back, Sanatana Goswami, who is supposed to be so, educated and, realized, pure devotee, he is also thinking of committing suicide. So, these thoughts may come, that is not to be surprised by, but how do we deal with it? How did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deal with it? Not by blaming or shaming Sanatana Goswami, but by being very empathic, compassionate. He immediately embraced him and he said that, and of course, then, in his own transcendental way, he treated his problem which was his disease, because of which he was feeling depressed. So, when we come across anyone who is going through that, so rather than blaming or shaming them that, "Oh, you have done this wrong, why did you drink that water? Who told you? You should have filtered. You don't know. You are knowledgeable of so many shastras. It is said that, if you want to drink water, you should filter it. You should have done that." No, you just, whatever was required, whatever is necessary, we deal with it. But keeping in mind the purpose. So, we can't deal with our body also the way we like. We can't deal with the mind also the way we like. Or we shouldn't. We can and suffer or experience whatever happens thereafter. But if we are really understanding, then we would know that yes, I am not the Bhoktaram, I am not the controller, proprietor or enjoyer of this body. But under superior and compassionate guidance, we should use whatever we have. Because if we don't use, also is not proper. So Sanatana Goswami was thinking that, I will just destroy. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted that, no, there is a purpose, so use your body, use your intelligence, use your opportunities that you have to serve Krishna. So, it comes to the point of what we do with what we know. Right? Just getting this information and feeling good about it, that yes, now I know so much, is not sufficient. Because that will later on only become so much of a burden that we carry in our mind. And that burden actually starts affecting us badly, because we start becoming conscious and expecting that people recognize that I know so much. But what are we doing with it? Right? So that is what is important here. So Krishna is saying that iti matva bhajante mam. So the purpose of this section where Narad Muni has asked these questions from Brahmaji about creation, and Brahmaji is explaining not just in technical terms that yes, this is how the creation is coming through the desire and the sound of Krishna's flute, but what is the purpose? Why it is what it is and how it is being described here now. So if we are clear of this purpose, then much of the then we are actually in alignment with the purpose of everything. And we see that here these two things are important. One is that Prabhupada is emphasizing that kalpayanti, or imagine. So, because we don't have first-hand experience, or we have but we are forgetful. So there are different ways of understanding. So here the word used is kalpayanti, or imagine, and Prabhupada says that speculative philosophers. So to understand some difficult concepts, there are different ways and different means. There is something called as upama, which is one of the important ingredients or ways of understanding. Is part of one of the evidences that you compare with something. So that doesn't mean that that thing is what it is being compared to, but it is being used as an example. So we understand that as Prabhupada is mentioning here, that this is the Virata Roop is a imagination. It's not that Krishna's body or Vishnu's body is like this, that the hair are like clouds, or as is going to be described now, that the bones are like mountains or mountains are bones. It is a comparison to show, and with the purpose of this last line, that Krishna is aware, or the divine or God is aware of everything in this creation, just like we are aware of whatever is happening in our body. And in the Bhagavad Gita again, Krishna says in the 13th chapter that there are two knowers of the field. The field of action is the body, and there are two knowers of that field. One is the person who is in the body, all of us. We know our body, what's happening. Sometimes we also don't know what is happening. Like after some years, we suddenly are made aware by some test that, we have some, a lot of blockages in the heart or some terrible disease. Right? So we don't even know what's happening in the body. But superficially we are aware that I am hungry, I am sleepy, I am thirsty, I am tired, right? Or I am exhausted mentally. But then Krishna says there is another knower of the field, and that is Paramatma, the super soul, and that is me, he says. And he is aware of everything happening in every body. So, I am aware of my pain and pleasure. I am not aware of the pain and pleasure of someone else. But Krishna is aware of the pain and pleasure of everyone. So he is the knower of all the fields of activity. And in the cosmic creation, we see that this whole cosmos is actually the field of activity of the Lord. So he is aware because he is all pervading. And once we have that realization, then for some who are misaligned, it's very scary. That whatever I think, whatever I do, everything is like, there is no privacy. Which is a big thing also now, right? Breach of privacy. But here there is actually absolutely no privacy. Everything is known to Krishna. And that sometimes, in a very witting way, some of the, people or, the government in some places, they use it wherever there is CCTV cameras, and then they write in Hindi, "Upar wala dekh raha hai." That someone is seeing you, right? So, actually it is a fact. And the fact is that the camera is not outside, it is inside. So, for a person who is misaligned, it is scary. But for a person who is completely aligned, he is so relaxed, he or she would be so relaxed that I don't have to bother. Whatever is happening with me is already known. And whatever is best for me will happen. So why there is any kind of insecurity? Right? So this is also a very big problem these days, that people are so insecure that in that insecurity they do stupid things. Right? But it is because we are misaligned. We feel insecure. In the Bhagavad Gita, I think 14th chapter, there are certain qualities that are being described, and in one of those verses, I think from verse 8 or so, he says, Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti. So, in the purport, Prabhupada says abhayam means fearlessness, and that is a symptom of a sannyasi, and that comes when he is actually self-realized, he is aware that I am never alone. So when he is traveling, traditionally sannyasis used to be just traveling in forests and going from town to town to share their wisdom. So when he is passing through a very scary forest, he is not feeling afraid because he is aware that I am not alone, that Paramatma is there with me. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto, Krishna says, that I am seated within everyone's heart and I am directing the wanderings of everyone. So, because of this misalignment, we are actually feeling insecure. But when we are aware of this, then there is no reason for any kind of, worries. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it is described again in the 13th chapter that to understand the divine, there are different processes. Some people understand through the process of karma by performing different activities, yagyas, different processes of purification. And there are others who realize by cultivation of knowledge. Like what we are now reading, that this universal creation with all these floating planetary systems, it will be described in some verses later from now in great detail of all the different divisions of the planetary systems. But through cultivation of knowledge, which also involves speculative philosophizing. So that is called as philosophical speculation. So with the purpose of reaching a conclusion. So some people by cultivation of knowledge, they realize the divine. But then, I think 13th chapter 26th verse. So Krishna says that, but there are others who just by the process of hearing, they achieve perfection. And that is the process of bhakti or devotion, which starts with hearing and chanting. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So, even if a person sincerely just hears, even if he or she does not understand fully well, technically, but just hears with faith and attention and accepts, then that also leads to perfection and they achieve the same goal. Because the process of bhakti actually is not in isolation of karma or gyan, which, the jnanis, they sometimes, belittle those who are karmis, that see such an attached person, attached to so much of kriya or activities. Or sometimes the karmis may, criticize jnanis that just sitting in the chair and doing nothing and just philosophizing. So they will say that, just by philosophy your stomach is not going to get full. Then, you have to eat also. So for eating, you have to work. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that you can't give up action. You have to work, even for sustenance of your life. So there is mutual criticism sometimes of jnanis for karmis or karmis for jnanis. And both of them, they combine together and criticize bhaktas or devotees. But actually, if we understand properly, devotion is a synthesis of karma and jnana. That is, with proper understanding of what is the purpose and how everything is manifest, and for whose pleasure is this creation made. And we are here, and what is our role? With that understanding, when we perform all actions for the pleasure of the divine, bhoktaram yajna tapasam, right? Whatever action we do is actually as an offering to Krishna. As in the 9th chapter again, Krishna says that yat tapasyasi kaunte tat kurushva mad arpanam, that whatever you do, offer it to me with love, right? So, bhakti is a synthesis of both. We don't give away or belittle jnana nor action, but whatever we do it consciously, with understanding of why we are doing what we are doing. And that is what we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, sometimes we can see there are some very critical and heavy statements about living in the material world, like in the beginning of this second canto. But we should also be aware of the context that this was being spoken to by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, who had only 7 days. If we hear with that emergency that I don't even know whether I have 7 days, then it could be fine. But we are also living in this world and we are having responsibility, and we fairly know that I'm not going tomorrow. So I have some responsibilities and I should be discharging them. Then we can see that we synthesize these both understandings and act in knowledge with responsibility, and also being aware that what is the purpose of everything. So that when we put this knowledge, this understanding into action, then we can actually start experiencing the fruits of that realization or wisdom. And then there is no more the feelings of being lost or insecure or not understanding why am I existing, so which are the causes of so many mental ailments these days. So Srimad Bhagavatam in that sense is a very wonderful way of engaging ourselves in connection with the purpose of this creation. So we are very fortunate that we have this opportunity, and as Srimad Bhagavatam says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj says that this process of cultivation of living with the alignment with the purpose of this creation, because we are now discussing of creation, and this has happened and this continues to happen. This creation is not something which is stagnant, but it is dynamic and it is happening every day. So previously the discussion was that how through sound then all these elements are happening. So it's not that it has just happened once, it is still happening now. First the desire comes that I want to do something, and then a person expresses that desire in terms of giving directions, and then we see that things start manifesting with all the different materials coming together. And as Brahmaji had mentioned earlier, till the time these ingredients are not in place, the formation of body cannot take place. So these ingredients are there, and this creation is still happening now. So when we understand this and align ourselves with the purpose, from when? So Prahlad Maharaj says, from your early childhood. So there is a misconception, especially amongst Indians, that ये सब धर्म वर्म की बातें हैं रिटायरमेंट के बाद. That all this, spiritual life or understanding, should be cultivated when you have already exhausted yourself. So exhausted your body, exhausted your mind. So you can't, assimilate anything at that time. So Prahlad Maharaj says that from your early childhood, we should cultivate, so that it's like, these shastras, they are like Google Maps. So they give a fair idea of what the path would be like and how much time it could take. And in the beginning of this Bhagavatam, in this chapter itself, in this canto, it was said that Varam Muhurtam, in one Muhurta, a person can actually achieve perfection. So it depends on how we are, wanting to execute this process. So these are like Google Maps, and we take help of Google Map not after 1 hour of our already starting the journey and we are starting to get lost. It's good if you can do that also then. But the best is you check before you start the journey, right? So that's why this Srimad Bhagavatam, when Prahlad Maharaj says that Kaumaram Acharit, that you should do from your very early life. So for wherever we are now in our life, how many kilometers or in terms of years we have already traveled, still not late. So we should take it seriously. We should understand, two things will happen. If we are on the right path till now, so we feel confident. Oh yes, very good. So I will just continue. And if we realize that, oh, I have been going in a wrong direction, so we have an opportunity to change the course of our life and align ourselves with the path. So it is beneficial either ways. So I hope that we all remain conscious and aware of this wonderful opportunity that we have, especially all the college students who are here. So don't think that this is not for you, this is for your grandfather or grandmother, and you will go from here and tell that this is what I heard. It is actually for you. And if you hear it very carefully, you will actually have an edge over others now, and even in your old age you will have so many things to tell to your grandchildren. Not about your failures, but about how fortunate you were. So please take this opportunity. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. There is 2 minutes that we have. If anyone has any question, then we can attempt. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the enlightenment. Prabhu, you said that whatever we do is for the pleasure of the Lord. So how we can understand this in our daily lives when we are working, when we are executing something? So how to break it down in our daily lives? This understanding of doing anything for the pleasure of the Lord. Thank you.
Yeah, so when I first joined my workplace, that was many years back. So as soon as I joined, I was given a place to sit. Expected, right? That you should have at least a place to sit and a desk to work on. And then I was given a computer to operate, to work with. And this was the first time that I would be operating a computer, and I was even given access to a laptop those days, some Japanese brand, Toshiba or something. you know. So suddenly you start feeling, oh wow, I have so much control. I can do so many things. And for a person who is very young and you get access to computer those days, or even now, if you get any gadget or anything like that, what is the first tendency? Hare. Those days I know that, few people in our office who had computers, when we are going to drink water or anything and we pass behind them, what are they doing on the computer? They are sitting in a solitary place playing solitaire. Solitaire? Huh? People know solitaire now because now there are so many advanced things, right? But they are sitting solitary playing solitaire. Is this what they are paid for in the office? No. And if the boss sees, what will they do? Get lost. Because sitting there, they are having fun for their pleasure. But what is the computer given for? Maybe not for the pleasure. We see that, by working like this, I am pleasing my boss. But for the service or for fulfilling the desire of, or the purpose of that organization, if not directly to the boss, because sometimes we may not like the boss, right? So, अरे इसके pleasure के लिए मुझे काम करना है. But you don't have a choice, because ultimately whatever is going to come through is coming through him. So sometimes, in devotional life, we may not like our immediate superior. So what? You don't get people always whom you like in life. But is that person aligned with the purpose? And even if he is not, are you aligned? And you see that yes, at least whatever I am supposed to do in this process, I am doing it, right? Of course, not completely, going in a wrong direction or misalignment, that Shastra is saying something and your superior or your guru is saying something else, then fit to change your organization, right? So, by this is practical, isn't it? This is a practical thing, that if you are working for a company, you are working for them, you are not working for you. And with more dedication that you work for that organization, the more you get benefited, right? So, I know some people, who was that? Someone who joined one organization as a shop floor level, as a some, huh? I don't know, but yeah, some gentleman, he joined some organization at a shop floor level, some mechanic, and then rose up to become the chairman of that company. Tata Steel. How is that? Not by politics, or not by any kind of maneuvering. He's just knowing what he is doing properly. And he is fortunate that he also has those kind of superiors who are allowing him the space to come up and even go beyond them, right? So I am sure in that organization, who was his immediate superior could have or would have been still at the supervisor level, and he is now the chairman, or probably not. But this is how it is. We have to. So when your question directly now, that how are we supposed to understand that everything is for the desire of Krishna? This verse that we were speaking of, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram. What do we have in control? We don't have anything in control. The more we try to control, the more miserable we become. Whether it is people, whether it is situations, whether it is even an organization, the more you try to control, the more, things get out of your control. And the more you try to control again, and the more things become out of your control. Right? So, I was speaking to one great, sadhu, and he was saying that the biggest, challenge, especially in spiritual organizations, is the biggest problem is that people try to control. Right? So, we don't have anything in our control. Our body is not in our control. When the food comes, we lose control immediately. What to eat, what not to eat. So what to speak of anything else? Controlling others, ways they work, the ways they desire, the ways they think, the ways they speak. Absolutely. Try to control yourself first. Right? And that's what Rupa Goswami is saying, that if you try to control these 6 urges, then you become controller of the whole world. Right? So, when we realize this, then we know that, okay, whatever I am doing, why am I doing? Yes, I please Krishna. Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhosi, dadasiyat. Whatever I am doing, is it something which will actually be serving the purpose of Krishna in this creation? Right? So, this may sound theoretical, but actually, it is the most practical thing if we remain conscious. So we have to remain conscious. So, one time, many years back, in one of the talks, my spiritual teacher, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, was saying, it's one thing to be in the Krishna consciousness movement, and it is another thing to be Krishna conscious. We are not conscious. If we were conscious, then we would always know that, okay, I am breathing because of Krishna. So with every breath, let me, serve. How do we serve? What practical things we do? We see that, yes, we eat. In one devotee's house, we went, and they had invited, he had invited, some brahmacharis and Maharaj for lunch. And after the lunch, and Maharaj was thanking the Mataji, and he said, thank you very much for the prasad, and I hope that with this energy I may serve Krishna. Because you eat prasad, so you get energy. So you use it for serving Krishna. We don't think that way, right? Probably we think, I have eaten nice food, now I'll go to sleep. So, this is what being conscious means. And when we are actually conscious of these things, this understanding, then and only then we get realization. Otherwise it is just data which you are carrying. And as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, with this we will end, I have exceeded 5 minutes. He says that, then such a person just becomes, carrier of the burden of knowledge. And there are many. Many of us, I will not say that. There are many who are carrying the burden of knowledge. And if there is someone unfortunate besides them, and if all that burden falls on them, they get trampled. So, this is, I don't know whether it answers your question.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.